Justin Baldoni just scored a major legal victory against Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, pushing a high-stakes extortion case forward as the judge refused to shut it down. This means the truth is about to come out, and it could have serious consequences, potentially damaging reputations and careers. The lawsuit centers around claims of theft and sexual harassment, which are being taken very seriously. On top of that, Justin is viewing the extortion allegations as a huge red flag. It's essentially a threat. Do this, or I'll expose you. I'll go to the media, tell everyone what you did, refuse to promote the film, or even bring Taylor Swift into it. That's the message he believes is being sent. Meanwhile, the Candy Digital defendants argue that no employer or joint employment relationship existed. However, the plaintiffs strongly counter this, pointing out that the document Candy Digital relies on shouldn't even be considered in a motion to dismiss. In a major development, Baldoni recently won a crucial court ruling when the judge denied Lively and Reynolds' motion to throw out the case. This decision officially opens the door for full litigation, proving that the lawsuit holds real legal weight. As the case moves forward, it's bound to shake up Hollywood, influencing power dynamics, setting new legal precedents, and leaving lasting impacts on the entertainment industry.
Before it had become a global sensation, it already helped thousands of women leave situations like Lily was in. I knew that if we could find a way to adapt it, which we knew wasn't going to be easy, then we had the potential to impact millions of lives.
The roots of this lawsuit go back to rising tensions at Wayfarer Studios, a production company co-founded by Justin Baldoni. According to Baldoni's lawsuit, Blake Lively made serious accusations against him and the company, allegedly threatening to publicly claim he engaged in sexual harassment and assault unless her demands were met. These demands reportedly included receiving a Producers Guild of America, PGA credit, and securing other production perks for her involvement in a specific project. She allegedly insisted on getting a cut of the film's profits, demanded editing rights, and pushed for her version of the film to be released. According to Baldoni's side, she made it clear that if her cut wasn't released, she wouldn't promote the movie or leverage her influence to support it. On the other hand, Lively has strongly denied these allegations, calling them completely false. She claims that her actions were in response to real concerns about inappropriate behavior on set, not an attempt to manipulate the situation for personal benefit. Her legal team insists that she was simply offering her creative input and that the PGA credit she received was a fair recognition of her actual contributions to the project. Hoping to put an early stop to the lawsuit before it escalated further, Lively's attorneys filed a motion to dismiss. A motion to dismiss is a legal strategy used to ask a court to throw out a case before it reaches discovery or trial, usually on the grounds that the claims lack legal merit or fail to meet the required burden of proof needed to proceed. These motions are common in defamation and extortion lawsuits, but they are notoriously tough to win. Courts are often reluctant to dismiss cases outright, especially when they involve serious allegations. Instead, they prefer to give both sides a chance to present evidence and argue their positions before reaching a final judgment. In her motion, Lively's legal team argued that Baldoni's lawsuit had no real basis and was simply an attempt to retaliate against her for speaking out. They also claimed that her statements and actions were legally protected under California law, which provides strong free speech protections in cases involving matters of public interest. Her team also requested that the discovery process be put on hold until the judge ruled on the motion. However, the court denied this request, allowing the case to move forward. In a huge win for Baldoni, the judge ultimately ruled against Lively and rejected her motion to dismiss. This major decision now sets the stage for full litigation, ensuring that the lawsuit will move forward in court. Since the court saw enough merit in Baldoni's claims, it ruled that the case could move forward rather than be dismissed. Had the judge granted the motion to dismiss, the lawsuit would have been thrown out completely, effectively shutting down Baldoni's legal battle before it even truly began. Instead, the ruling ensured that the case would proceed, allowing for deeper investigation, extensive discovery, and potentially even a full trial. For Baldoni, this was more than just a routine legal victory. It was a major validation of his claims. By rejecting Lively's attempt to dismiss the case, the judge signaled that the allegations against her were serious enough to warrant a full legal review. This sent a powerful message that the court was taking the case seriously rather than dismissing it as a baseless or frivolous lawsuit. Simply filing a motion does not automatically justify a stay, meaning the legal fight was far from over. This decision marked a major turning point in the battle. It meant that Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios would now have the opportunity to present their full case in court, a process that could bring forth crucial evidence, internal communications, and witness testimony that might shift the entire narrative. At the same time, Lively and her legal team were left with no choice but to mount a much stronger defense, knowing that the case wasn't going to be thrown out easily. With the judge's ruling, the lawsuit entered a brand new phase, one that would bring even more public scrutiny to the allegations, the legal arguments, and the potential consequences for everyone involved. In legal terms, a court may grant a motion to delay discovery if there's a strong enough reason, but in this case, that didn't happen. After Lively's failed attempt to have the case dismissed, the legal battle took yet another unexpected turn. The judge not only denied the motion to dismiss, but also refused to grant a motion to pause the discovery process. This decision reinforced the idea that the case had enough legal weight to move forward, forcing both sides to provide evidence and actively participate in the legal proceedings. In high-profile lawsuits, motions to stay discovery are often used as a tactic by defendants who believe they might have a chance to get the case dismissed, allowing them to avoid the cost, time, and risk of sensitive information being exposed. If granted, a stay would have essentially put the entire case on hold, delaying depositions, document submissions, and any formal exchange of evidence between parties. Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, and their legal team strongly pushed for a pause in discovery, likely hoping that if the motion to dismiss had eventually been granted, they could avoid the burden of an extended legal fight. However, the judge's refusal to allow this stay signified that he was unwilling to slow down the legal process simply based on their arguments. Instead, he carefully examined both sides, noting that the plaintiffs had responded with solid counter-arguments. In response, the Fanatics defendants argued that Baldoni had sufficiently established an employment relationship and that any flaws in his claims could be corrected through amendments. With both sides presenting strong arguments, the judge ultimately determined that the defendants had not provided enough substantial grounds for dismissal, allowing the case to move forward without delay. The judge made it clear that just because the defendants had a strong argument for dismissal, it didn't mean the case would be thrown out. He also stated that requesting discovery wasn't unreasonable since the time frame was quite specific, from August 2024 to December 2024, aligning with when the alleged smear campaign began. The defendants had argued for a stay in discovery, claiming that the scope of the requested evidence was too broad. However, the judge disagreed, ruling that the discovery request was within a reasonable limit. He emphasized that a motion to dismiss does not automatically halt discovery unless it falls under the Private Securities Litigation Reform Act, and since that didn't apply here, discovery would continue. By December, the judge ruled on multiple motions, including one for dismissal from a particular party, a summary judgment request from another, and an additional motion to dismiss. The case became more complex as it involved two entities, one being the plaintiff's direct employer and the other a company that worked alongside them but did not directly employ him. The plaintiff had accused his employer of retaliation for taking FMLA leave, and while his primary employer consulted the second company for advice on termination, the plaintiff wasn't officially employed by them. The judge ultimately dismissed the case against the consulting company since they had no direct authority over the plaintiff's employment. However, he denied the motion to dismiss against the primary employer and also rejected their request for summary judgment. Furthermore, he granted the plaintiff the opportunity to file an amended complaint to establish a stronger connection between the consulting company and his employer. This indicated that the judge was taking the case very seriously and wasn't inclined to dismiss claims that had substantial allegations behind them. From his rulings, it became clear that he preferred cases to be fully litigated rather than dismissed on technicalities. His approach appeared to be balanced, as he acknowledged credible arguments from both sides without portraying one party as the clear victim or villain. Whether Blake Lively or Wayfarer Studios was in the right remained for the legal process to determine. The judge referenced a similar case, Robbins versus Candy Digital, to support his decision, further reinforcing his commitment to ensuring a fair trial. This case was particularly relevant because it involved similar legal arguments about discovery and the importance of continuing litigation despite efforts to have it dismissed. By citing this precedent, the judge reinforced the idea that both parties had put forth strong arguments, but that wasn't enough to stop the discovery process at this stage. His ruling reflected a broader legal philosophy that cases involving serious allegations should be fully examined rather than dismissed too quickly. This was a crucial moment because it signaled that the court believed Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios' claims deserved a fair and thorough legal review. As the discovery process moved forward, the judge continued making key rulings. In December, he ruled on multiple motions, including one party's motion to dismiss. This wasn't an isolated decision. The judge had previously denied a motion to dismiss in a related case while still allowing an amended complaint to be filed. This showed that he wasn't inclined toward quick dismissals, but was instead committed to ensuring that the legal proceedings followed a structured and fair process. His approach remained neutral, recognizing that both sides had presented credible claims. Whether the claims were true or not was something for the legal process and the public to determine. For Baldoni and his legal team, this ruling was another major victory. The judge's denial of the motion to stay discovery meant they would soon have access to critical documents, private communications, and testimonies that could strengthen their case. If any damaging evidence against Lively and Reynolds emerged during this phase, it could shift public perception and influence the final outcome of the trial. This also tied into the legal concept of actual malice, as Baldoni's team argued that Lively had acted with clear intent to harm his reputation. On the other hand, this ruling was a significant setback for Lively and Reynolds. Without a dismissal, they now had to face the reality of going through a full legal battle, which included providing evidence, turning over private records, and possibly sitting for depositions under oath. This was a worst-case scenario for them, as discovery could bring to light details they might have preferred to keep out of the public eye. The judge's refusal to halt discovery also suggested that he saw enough legitimacy in Baldoni's claims to allow the case to proceed. Had he believed the lawsuit was completely unfounded, he might have been more inclined to dismiss it or delay it indefinitely. Instead, he made it clear that all parties involved would be held accountable for their actions and statements. With the motion to dismiss denied and discovery set to continue, the case had officially entered a critical phase. This ruling ensured that Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios could gather essential evidence to support their claims of defamation and extortion. At the same time, Lively and Reynolds would be required to fully participate, meaning their behind-the-scenes interactions and personal communications could be closely examined. The legal process would now unfold over an extended period, making it clear that a quick resolution was unlikely. Beyond this case, the ruling had larger implications for the entertainment industry. It sent a strong message that accusations of defamation and extortion wouldn't be easily dismissed, especially in high-profile disputes. The court's willingness to take a deeper look into these claims signaled that celebrities and production companies alike would be held to a higher level of accountability. For Baldoni, this ruling was more than just a legal win. It was a crucial step in proving his case. The judge's decision made it clear that Baldoni's claims deserved a full legal examination. For Lively and Reynolds, this marked the beginning of what could be a long and potentially damaging legal battle. According to Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios, Lively used threats to pressure them into meeting her demands. Every time they tried to stand their ground, she allegedly used the threat, either directly or indirectly, to force their compliance. While they weren't physically coerced, they argued that the stakes were extremely high. With a high-profile movie, a major partnership with Sony, and millions of dollars on the line, the pressure to concede was immense. At the center of this legal fight is a serious and highly controversial accusation. Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios claim that Blake Lively engaged in extortion. According to the lawsuit, Lively allegedly threatened to accuse Baldoni and his production company of sexual harassment and assault unless they met her specific demands. These demands reportedly included receiving a Producers Guild of America (PGA) credit and other production-related perks. The accusation is explosive because it directly challenges the fundamental principles of the Me Too movement. While extortion in the context of sexual misconduct allegations is rare, it is a serious charge that, if proven true, could have massive consequences for everyone involved. Baldoni's team claims that Lively used false allegations as leverage to secure a more powerful role in the production. Court documents suggest that her goal was not about justice or accountability, but about gaining influence, status, and financial benefits in the entertainment industry. They argue that her approach was manipulative, turning serious allegations into bargaining chips. In legal terms, this is known as civil extortion. Under California law, extortion involves using threats to force someone into granting financial or professional advantages. If the claims against Lively are substantiated, it could set a precedent about the potential misuse of misconduct accusations for personal gain. For Baldoni and his production company, this case is about more than just one legal battle. It's about protecting their reputations and pushing back against what they see as an unfair and dangerous precedent. If Lively is found guilty of extortion, it could send shockwaves through the industry, raising concerns about false allegations being used as tools for leverage. This is why Baldoni's team was meticulously preparing for this lawsuit well in advance. They anticipated this legal fight and gathered evidence to prove that Lively's claims were not only false, but strategically planned to benefit her career. Lively and her legal team, however, strongly deny these accusations. They insist that she never extorted Baldoni or Wayfarer Studios. Instead, they claim she simply raised valid concerns about workplace misconduct. Lively maintains that any production credits she received had nothing to do with false accusations, but were a reflection of her actual contributions to the film. Her legal team asserts that she was initially brought onto the project as a volunteer, but was later awarded a PGA credit in recognition of her work. According to them, this was standard industry practice, and Baldoni's claims are nothing more than an attempt to discredit her. Ultimately, this case is about two competing narratives. Baldoni and his team argue that Lively weaponized misconduct allegations to force her way into a higher production role, while Lively maintains that she was simply seeking fair recognition for her work. The outcome of this lawsuit will not only determine the reputations of those involved, but could also have a lasting impact on the entertainment industry and how accusations of misconduct are handled in high-stakes situations. Lively wants people to overlook the fact that this letter was sent in June 2024. She hopes to erase this key timeline of events because it directly supports the extortion claim against her. At the same time, Lively asserts that she has been a victim of harassment and inappropriate behavior in the industry. If that is true, then her decision to speak out and demand accountability would not be extortion, but rather an act of self-protection. Her legal team has framed this lawsuit as a dangerous attack on women who dare to speak up about harassment in Hollywood. They argue that if Baldoni successfully labels Lively's actions as extortion, it could discourage other victims from coming forward out of fear that they, too, might face legal retaliation in the form of defamation or extortion lawsuits. This case carries much bigger implications than a simple lawsuit. The outcome could reshape Hollywood and influence the broader conversation around workplace misconduct and power dynamics in the entertainment industry. If Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios successfully prove that Lively fabricated allegations as leverage, it could change everything about how these accusations are handled in the future. On the other hand, if Lively's defense holds up and Baldoni's claims are dismissed, it would reinforce the argument that allegations should not automatically be treated as extortion or bad faith attempts to manipulate outcomes. Additionally, it could further damage Baldoni's reputation, making it seem like he tried to undermine a high-profile actress. The narrative could be twisted by powerful industry elites to serve their own interests, shaping public perception of the case. As discovery moves forward, both sides will need to provide concrete evidence to back their claims. Emails, messages, contracts, and testimonies from those involved in the production will play a major role in determining whether Lively's actions were a legitimate response to misconduct or a calculated extortion attempt. Hollywood remains deeply divided over the case, with legal experts expressing concerns about its long-term effects. Some believe Baldoni's lawsuit could discourage people from reporting real misconduct, while others argue that false allegations must be taken just as seriously as genuine claims. If extortion did happen, they insist, it needs to be addressed properly. Meanwhile, public opinion is just as polarized. Fans of Lively and Reynolds have rallied behind them, claiming that Baldoni's accusations are an attempt to silence and discredit a powerful woman in Hollywood. On the other hand, supporters of Baldoni see this case as a crucial step in holding people accountable for misusing serious allegations for personal gain. With both sides fiercely committed to their version of events and emotions running high, this legal battle is shaping up to be one of the most closely watched Hollywood lawsuits in years. The Producers Guild of America, PGA mark, is a prestigious recognition awarded only to producers who have been officially vetted by the Guild. It signifies that the recipient played a key role in the actual production of a film or TV project. As this lawsuit unfolds, the extortion claim remains one of its most highly debated aspects. The accusation that Blake Lively attempted to coerce Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios into giving her a PGA credit and other production-related benefits by threatening to falsely accuse them of sexual harassment and assault is incredibly serious. If proven, it could have devastating consequences for Lively's career and reputation. However, if Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios fail to provide solid evidence to back up their allegations, this entire case could backfire in a major way. Instead of exposing Lively as a manipulative figure, they might end up being seen as powerful industry players trying to use a high-stakes lawsuit to destroy a woman who stood up for herself. In Hollywood, where reputations mean everything, that kind of backlash could be career-ending. The outcome of this case will not only affect those directly involved, but could also set a precedent that influences the way future misconduct allegations are handled in the industry. This request felt completely unreasonable and downright cold-hearted. At the center of it all is the movie IWU, which was unfairly taken from Justin as the director and stripped from Wayfair's control. The big question here is whether Lively's actions actually amount to extortion, or if Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios are just spinning a desperate story to protect themselves. Under California law, civil extortion requires three things: a clear threat, intent to coerce, and a direct link between the demand and the pressure applied. The case also dives into the idea of malice, with claims that Lively acted with ill intent. But Blake, Ryan, and Leslie have all argued that the accusations don't meet the bar for civil extortion, pointing instead to criminal standards. The lawsuit claims Lively made a calculated threat, warning Baldoni and Wayfarer that she'd accuse them of misconduct unless they gave her certain production credits. If true, that's straight-up coercion, using serious allegations as leverage for career gains. But where's the solid proof? That's where things get messy. The legal team is pushing the malice angle, suggesting her motives were purely selfish. They say she wasn't after justice, but wanted a PGA credit and other perks, using fear as a bargaining chip. If the court buys this, it could ruin her reputation, painting her as someone who'd weaponize accusations to get ahead. Then there's the critical question: did Lively back off after getting what she wanted? That's the key evidence Baldoni's team needs. If the timeline shows she dropped the accusations once she secured her credits, it's a bad look. But if she can prove she was genuinely calling out workplace wrongdoing, their case falls apart. So far, it seems like she doesn't have much hard evidence, but we'll see how it plays out. Beneath all this, there's a bigger battle over power and gender dynamics. Lively, a high-profile actress, is accused of behavior that would have ended a man's career. If Baldoni and Wayfarer win, it could change how we see accountability, proving manipulation isn't a one-gender issue. But if Lively wins, it might make it harder for others to push back against misconduct claims. With Discovery moving forward, the truth will come out. And in Hollywood, where drama is king, this could be one of the most defining legal fights. Yet, this request felt completely unreasonable and downright cold-hearted. At the center of it all is the movie IWU, which was unfairly taken from Justin as the director and stripped from Wayfair's control. The big question here is whether Lively's actions actually amount to extortion, or if Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios are just spinning a desperate story to protect themselves. Under California law, civil extortion requires three things: a clear threat, intent to coerce, and a direct link between the demand and the pressure applied. The case also dives into the idea of malice, with claims that Lively acted with ill intent. But Blake, Ryan, and Leslie have all argued that the accusations don't meet the bar for civil extortion, pointing instead to criminal standards. The lawsuit claims Lively made a calculated threat, warning Baldoni and Wayfarer that she'd accuse them of misconduct unless they gave her certain production credits. If true, that's straight-up coercion, using serious allegations as leverage for career gains. But where's the solid proof? That's where things get messy. The legal team is pushing the malice angle, suggesting her motives were purely selfish. They say she wasn't after justice, but wanted a PGA credit and other perks, using fear as a bargaining chip. If the court buys this, it could ruin her reputation, painting her as someone who'd weaponize accusations to get ahead. Then there's the critical question. Did Lively back off after getting what she wanted? That's the key evidence Baldoni's team needs. If the timeline shows she dropped the accusations once she secured her credits, it's a bad look. But if she can prove she was genuinely calling out workplace wrongdoing, their case falls apart. So far, it seems like she doesn't have much hard evidence. But we'll see how it plays out. Beneath all this, there's a bigger battle over power and gender dynamics. Lively, a high-profile actress, is accused of behavior that would have ended a man's career. If Baldoni and Wayfarer win, it could change how we see accountability, proving manipulation isn't a one-gender issue. But if Lively wins, it might make it harder for others to push back against misconduct claims. With Discovery moving forward, the truth will come out. And in Hollywood, where drama is king, this could be one of the most defining legal fights yet. But if they can prove something shady was going on behind the scenes, Lively's career could face serious damage. With both sides gearing up for a nasty legal fight, the truth will eventually come out, and it might shock everyone. This case bears a striking resemblance to another high-profile lawsuit, and as one legal expert put it, if the Discovery requests go beyond what's allowed under federal rules, this could get messy. The judge's decision to bring up Robbins v. Candy Digital wasn't just a technicality, it was a strategic move that could shape the entire case. That lawsuit involved accusations almost identical to Lively's, claims that someone used the threat of public ruin to squeeze out money and career perks. If Robbins versus Candy Digital is any clue, this case will boil down to one key question. Was there a clear do this or else exchange, or is this just another example of powerful people trying to silence someone who spoke up? In that case, the court was firm. For extortion claims to stick, there needs to be undeniable proof of a direct threat and a clear trade-off. A vague hint or a tense conversation isn't enough. It has to be an explicit demand, and that could be the loophole that saves Lively's case. Meanwhile, the defense argues that the plaintiff wasn't even eligible for what he was asking for, leading to his termination. They also claim there wasn't enough proof of an employer relationship. But here's where things get really interesting. While courts take extortion seriously, they're also wary of punishing people for standing up for themselves. If Lively's team can show she was just fighting for fair recognition, not making threats, this whole lawsuit could collapse. On the other hand, if Baldoni's lawyers have hard evidence that Lively wasn't just negotiating, but outright blackmailing, the Robbins precedent could work in their favor, putting her in legal and career jeopardy. The judge isn't taking this lightly, even though the defense wants it dismissed early. His reference to Robbins sends a clear message. He wants cold, hard facts. In a high-stakes Hollywood battle where reputations and fortunes are on the line, neither side can afford to slip up. And here's another twist. Even though this is playing out in New York, the New York Times is arguing for shield law protections, while Blake's team is banking on the Me Too law, except that law only blocks defamation claims if there's no malice involved. This means Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios will have to prove Lively didn't just advocate for herself, but crossed the line into extortion. If they succeed, the fallout for Lively could be brutal. She might face massive fines, legal penalties, and a career in ruins. The reputational damage could be even more long-lasting, especially in an industry where credibility is everything. Extortion is a serious accusation, and if the court rules against her, it could make studios hesitant to work with her in the future. The fear of controversy alone could be enough to limit her opportunities. On the other hand, if the court finds that Baldoni and Wayfarer's claims are baseless, the consequences for them could be just as severe. A failed extortion claim could be seen as an attempt to silence Lively or even punish her, potentially damaging Baldoni's reputation and credibility in Hollywood. This case has already captured public attention, and no matter the outcome, it will shape how both sides are perceived moving forward. The judge has sent a clear signal to Justin, Wayfarer, Blake, Ryan, and Leslie. While he is considering their motions to dismiss, he doesn't appear inclined to throw the case out entirely. With the judge allowing the case to move forward and the discovery phase beginning, the coming months will be critical. Testimonies, emails, contracts, and other key evidence will play a major role in determining whether Lively was simply advocating for herself or if her actions crossed the legal line into extortion. The stakes are incredibly high. And as both sides prepare for what could be a drawn-out legal battle, the entire entertainment industry is watching closely. The judge's decision to let the case proceed has shifted the legal landscape, making it clear that neither side will escape without serious scrutiny. Now that the motion to dismiss has been denied and discovery is moving forward, legal analysts and insiders are speculating on the possible outcomes. While it's still too early to predict a final ruling, the judge's actions so far indicate that this case is being treated with utmost seriousness, and both parties must now prepare for an intense legal showdown. For Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios, this ruling is a major win. It gives them the opportunity to fully present their case and gather evidence that could support their extortion claims. If they manage to prove that Blake Lively's actions fit the legal definition of civil extortion, she could be held financially liable. The court may order her to compensate Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios if they can show that her alleged threats caused significant professional or reputational harm. A ruling in their favor could also set a legal precedent, discouraging similar disputes in Hollywood and reshaping how production credits and negotiations are handled. However, proving extortion is no easy task. The burden of proof lies entirely with Baldoni and his legal team. They must present undeniable evidence that Lively's alleged threats were directly tied to her demand for production credits. If they fail to provide concrete proof linking her request to a coercive threat, their case could weaken significantly, and the extortion claim might even be dismissed. The discovery phase will be critical in determining the strength of their allegations. Every piece of evidence, from emails and text messages to behind-the-scenes communications, will be analyzed to see if Lively acted unlawfully or was merely advocating for herself within industry norms. For Blake Lively, the stakes couldn't be higher. If she successfully defends herself against these allegations, it won't just protect her career, it could also send a powerful message about standing up for oneself in Hollywood. But if the evidence doesn't work in her favor, the fallout could be devastating. This legal battle is far from over, and with so much on the line, every development in the case will be closely watched by both the industry and the public. It could strengthen her argument that this lawsuit is nothing more than a retaliation attempt for speaking out. A ruling in her favor would send a powerful message about the dangers of using counterclaims to silence individuals who raise concerns about workplace misconduct. If the court determines that Lively was simply advocating for her contributions and that the PGA credit was awarded based on merit, the case could completely backfire on Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios, potentially damaging their reputations and credibility in the industry. Even though this case is playing out in New York, California, laws are still being discussed. The New York Times is pushing for protection under the New York Shield law, while Lively is arguing for coverage under the Me Too law. But there's a key detail. This law only protects against retaliatory defamation claims if the original accusations were made without malice. If Baldoni and his legal team can successfully prove that she engaged in extortion, her defense under that law may not hold up under scrutiny. Beyond the courtroom, public perception will play a huge role in shaping the outcome. Hollywood is no stranger to high-profile legal battles, and this case has already ignited debates about power dynamics in the entertainment industry. If Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios win, it could lead to increased scrutiny of industry negotiations, particularly when misconduct allegations are used as leverage in business disputes. On the other hand, if Lively prevails, it could set a strong precedent, reinforcing protections for individuals who come forward with allegations and discouraging companies from using legal threats to intimidate them into silence. The possibility of a settlement also looms over this case. While both sides appear determined to fight this battle in court, prolonged litigation can be costly and damaging to reputations. If discovery produces damaging evidence for either party, a settlement might become the most practical way to avoid further fallout. However, given the judge's decision to allow the case to move forward, a quick resolution seems unlikely. Both sides are deeply invested in proving their version of events, and neither appears willing to back down without a fight. As the case moves forward, attention will shift to the evidence presented in court and how it shapes the legal arguments. On both sides, testimonies, internal emails, text messages, and any communications related to the dispute will be closely examined. The judge's ruling so far suggests that he wants a thorough and detailed examination of the case, which means every single piece of evidence will be scrutinized before a final decision is made. With the discovery phase set to reveal more details, the next few months will be critical in determining how this legal battle plays out. Whether it ends with a decisive ruling, a settlement, or a drawn-out courtroom fight, one thing is certain. This case is far from over, and Hollywood will be watching every step of the way. Let's see how the judge ultimately handles this.